it's now time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning with Arise News analyst Dr. Constance Ikoku.
Good morning again, Kechi, and good morning again, Charles.
Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Yes, good to see you on this second segment. All right, to look at the papers with us today, we have Dr. Iyobosa Owogaren. He is the editor, Nation's Capital, of This Day newspaper. Hello there and welcome to the program. We begin with This Day. Fubara frustrating budget presentation. 27 lawmakers claim as Rivers crisis festers. The State Assembly has denied receiving a correspondence from the governor on presentation of the 2025 budget, but there is a letter dated March 7 from the Secretary to the State Government in which the Speaker and members of Assembly were invited to a meeting with the governor to discuss the budget, among other things. We've also seen the protest by job groups on Minister Wike's comments, as well as impeachment threat against Governor Sim Fubara. Wike, although, says that he was misquoted. Dr. Iyobosa, for many viewers, it's time to cut out the nonsense in Rivers. Nothing of substance seems to be happening at the moment in the state, and it seems to be a tragedy for the citizens of that state.
Absolutely, I agree with you. The headline today by This Day, that is a perspective from one of the aggrieved party in the current crisis in Rivers State. You will recall some weeks back when the Supreme Court delivered the judgment, the governor of Rivers State invited the lawmaker for a meeting to enable them sort out some of these issues that they are raising today. And where the report we got was that the lawmaker said it was a poo-poo trap for them and that the governor should just do the needful, go ahead and present the budget. And thereafter, there was an attempt, as reported by several media, by the governor to present the budget. On getting there, the assembly complex was locked. And just last week, he sent an official letter to them. And but the same day that he sent a letter to them, the lawmaker adjourned sin and die, which means that for now they are no longer sitting. So if they are complaining that they have not received a letter from the governor, how can they receive a letter when they shut down the State House of Assembly? But like you said, I think it is hard time that we'll put a stop to this nonsense. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is in a position to help resolve this matter. Because from all indication, the major actors in this crisis is the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, who is an employee of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if the President is really interested in resolving the crisis in Rivers State, I think it is hard time he called the former minister, Wike, to order, and also encourage the governor to also follow the path of peace. So far, there have been several provocative issues in Rivers State, but I think the governor, to a very large extent, has maintained his cool. The crisis is not helping the people of Rivers State. I think it will be in the interest of the people who elected the governor and who they are supposed to be representing, that the crisis should end as quickly as possible so that the Rivers State can move forward.
I think this issue has dragged on for too long, and not just the Rivers State people. I think Nigerians are just tired of the back and forth. The governor says he has sent a letter, which we all saw, and then I think the spokesperson for the State House of Assembly was saying, look, I dare the governor to show us an acknowledged copy. And that sort of shows, or that sort of paints a narrative that we know you are trying to send the letter, but we are not trying to acknowledge it. So they know that there's no acknowledgement of the letter, but they understand that the governor wants to come and present that budget. And I think at the bottom of this, while all this struggle is going on, you have teachers waiting for salaries, you have pensioners waiting, state hospitals have to be financed. And so this is just more than this political fight that these bigwigs are having.
It's just a case of trying to give a dog a bad name in order to hang it. The governor, I mean, it's clear that he has been trying to present that letter, and they have been deliberately frustrating it and then saying that he has not presented any letter to them. Then at some point they said he forwarded the letter to them via WhatsApp. What is wrong with that? I mean, if you can't do it physically, then He's explored the other option, sending it online, and still they call it what that they said that it was awkward, unprofessional, embarrassing. Oh, come on.
All right, let's look at the next paper today, Daily Sun. CPC bloc adamant about plan to exit APC. Lamido chided El-Rufai for asking him to join SDP. Lawan PDP chieftain dismissed defection call. It's no longer news that elements of the Congress for Progressive Change CPC bloc in the All Progressives Congress APC want to move to the Social Democratic Party. These are mainly former President Buhari's loyalists, and chief among them is, of course, former Governor of Kaduna State, Madam Nasir El-Rufai, who has already left the APC to the SDP. Again, Dr. Iyobosa, do you see a repeat of 2014 when some PDP governors left the party, causing President Jonathan to lose the election? What are you seeing here?
But what is playing out in APC is very common with politicians. When they are not getting what they want, there's that possibility that they want to look elsewhere. Don't forget that within the APC, there were three or two group or parties that formed the APC, and the CPC was one of them, led by then President Muhammad Buhari. And during Buhari regime, this faction, the CPC, enjoy enormous support from the president. They were in charge. They were already in charge. And don't forget that the process that led to Tinubu becoming the president of Nigeria, that process was not supported by the CPC faction of that party. So if you ask me, I think they are currently licking their wound because you don't reap where you don't sow. But like you said, I think unlike what happened before 2015, where we saw powerful groups, governors decamping from PDP to APC to form a coalition that eventually gave Buhari that victory. The group of people now, the element who are pushing this move, are not in the position to change anything. How do you align with Mala Nasir El-Rufai, who many people said lack the credibility to galvanize the opposition against Tinubu now? But in Nigeria, anything can happen. Politicians, you can never really understand their way. Let's see what happens as we move very close to the 2027 general election.
And then, Nkechi, one of the arguments that we see in all that is happening is that these stalwarts were there when President Muhammad Buhari literally ran the country aground for 8 years. Everyone was quiet. Now they've found their voices. So is this a case of kettle calling the pot black?
I think just like Dr. Wogarian said there, it's about self-interest. Right now, we're not enjoying what we were enjoying in the last administration. The Daily Sun is reporting that the CPC loyalists feel disenchanted, they're feeling sidelined, they're feeling marginalized, and they are feeling like only the Southwest APC is enjoying the national
Actually,
cake.
the Lagos axis.
The Lagos axis is enjoying the national cake. And so they're exploring other ways of... So this exploring other ways of coming together, forming a coalition, is not on the basis of we have the Nigerian people's interest at heart. Yes. Nigerians are suffering. Things are hard. It's about we are not chopping enough. Let's go and form our own so that we can continue to chop.
Former governor, sorry, before you come in, former governor of Jigawa State, Alhaji Sule Lamido, alluded to that when he told Malam Nasir El-Rufai that this is not about the country, it's about personal grudge.
Absolutely. Now, what I'm finding fascinating is the fact that the blocks are still existing in the APC. So there's a CPC block still in existence. So there should be an APGA block and there should be a PDP block in the APC. So, I mean, I am wondering what kind of political contraption the All Progressives Congress is. So does it mean that right from the get-go, this party has been divided and all the other blocks are just preparing to exit at the slightest provocation? So, I mean, the APC should actually take a very strong inward look. But then, I'm also thinking, too, that the existence of this so-called CPC block is actually an act of mischief on the part of some of the actors, you know, who are disgruntled at the moment. And so, all of a sudden, a CPC block emerges.
This is what happens when it's time for politicking. Perception is key. And so you start hearing a lot of these leaks. Oh, this might happen. Oh, these people are aggrieved. It's all a plot to just see.
It's also testing the waters.
It's testing, exactly. It's also testing the waters. You're right, Dr. Ikuku.
Okay, let's see Daily Independent. NAFDAC evacuates 100 truckloads of fake drugs from major markets. The Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, disclosed this in a press conference. Sustained efforts right there by NAFDAC to sanitize the drug market in the interest of Nigerians. I think a lot of people are in support of this. But this may not be enough. These drugs come in through the ports, whether it's land or sea borders. So the question that arises is, we have immigration and customs officials who man these borders. Is it that they're not doing their jobs properly? Do some people need to be questioned and answer for that? Because if not, why are we having this discussion? Yes, the markets, there are people that are retailing and selling these drugs, but they are coming through our borders. So what are those our borders doing? They have questions to answer, don't you think, Charles?
Our borders are porous. That is obvious from the get-go. Our borders are porous, and our, you know,
even the ports. So the ports are also porous.
Sorry.
So that means it's an indictment on the government.
Of course,
itself.
it is an indictment. I mean, the sort of corruption that goes on there. You know, you have issues of so many charges, different kinds of charges. You have issues of extortion, and of course, you have the officials who, let me say, are human. And so they're also subject to manipulation, particularly when the price is right. What am I talking about? It is still the same corruption thing. So yes, our ports are also porous.
Yes, in case
and I just wanted to say, I like this angle that you brought in, Dr. Ikuku. If we keep seeing this amount, trillions and trillions of naira worth of illegal drugs, worth trillions of naira, they're definitely coming from somewhere. And so we need to widen this discussion and widen what we can do. And another thing that I saw in the report was about the storage of medicine. So even if it's not fake, it's not stored properly. So this is another conversation and another awareness that we need to have. They said these drugs are being stored at temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Celsius without windows, leading to, obviously, they're of no use if you're not storing them properly. So that's even a whole nother conversation. NAFDAC just has a lot to do right now, and I think they're starting somewhere.
NAFDAC does have a lot to do. Sorry, Dr. Owujeren, NAFDAC does have a lot to do because, you know, when you see this kind of a thing happening, you know that there is a syndicating operation, you know, from the suppliers to the immigration or customs officials to the buyers and, you know, those who are retailing.
Yeah,
it's a major
country
syndicate.
of origin is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Countries
so,
of origin, you have to tackle that.
It's a wide network, and that is what NAFDAC has to deal with.
Dr. Ugaren, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that if we want to ease the job of NAFDAC, we can also help in stopping these things at the point of entry. Because if you look at NAFDAC, how many personnel do they have across the country? Well, a country of about 250 million people. How can you deploy a workforce of less than 300,000 to be able to control these things? So I agree with you and Charles and Nkechi that there's need for us to stop these things at the point of entry. Because unless we do that, we might just be fighting a battle that we will not win at the end of the day.
There's also the other angle that it shows that people want to work. So can we also provide the environment where we can manufacture these drugs in Nigeria? That's another thing. That's what the government does. You know, you have a lot of these people that are willing, you know, to produce and manufacture if they are supported or incentivized. So it's another thing that the government may have to look into. Okay, let's look at the Punch. Governors lobby Tinubu to block LG direct payment. This is all in a bid to delay the implementation of the Supreme Court verdict on local government autonomy. Some are against payment through the Central Bank of Nigeria, citing huge debt incurred by local councils previously. They also say if the monies are paid through the CBN, it amounts to the federal government controlling everything. Instead, they want it to be paid into commercial banks. Dr. Owoghiaren, at this point, it seems the governors are fighting a lost battle. The power dynamics are going to change between the states and the local councils when eventually all this is sorted out.
Well, it is very difficult for us to be certain about that now, because I'm aware that there's ongoing conversation between the Governors Forum and the President over this issue. And the governors believe that that local government control should not be taken away from them. And I'm aware that that was a part of the agreement that the President reached with the governor that enabled them to, key into this tax reform bill that is before the National Assembly. Don't forget that there was a huge opposition against the tax reform. Part of what they were bargaining for was that the President is trying to take the control of local government away from them. I would be surprised if at the end of the day that process is not implemented. The Attorney General of the Federation last week issued a statement asking the local government to comply. But whether the President or the federal government will have the political will to implement that is something we are yet to see.
The goose that lays the golden egg for many state governments, if not all. So blocking the state governments from accessing local government funds is going to be a huge drawback for them. And for now, the state governors will do everything possible to ensure that they are still able to access those local government funds. I mean, what comes to the local governments is huge, and it will give the local government authorities a lot of clout, a lot of influence to determine what happens probably at the state level. So for the state governors to maintain control, it also means that they have to be able to control the funds coming to the local government. So I mean, they're trying to go over and above the Supreme Court to lobby the President to ensure that
I haven't seen any compelling reason why the governors are still on this issue. I know one of their reasons was something about debts incurred by local governments. Another question I wanted to ask is...
That can be paid off.
It can be paid off, but who incurred these debts? If the local government have been under the thumb of the state governors for years, it's ironic that the same governors are now using debt as a reason to delay autonomy.
They are the ones who are coming up with all manner of excuses. They incurred those debts, so to say, on behalf of the local governments, and then it's just another ploy to ensure that they still keep control of the local government funds.
Okay, let's quickly look at another story in this day, just quickly. It's on former President Olusegun Obasanjo, where he was lamenting the decline in values, saying kidnappers and others are now traditional rulers. And in Kechi, it falls back to that story on culture, loss of value, loss of identity, loss of self. You know, previously in the past, it will be inconceivable that a kidnapper or a criminal is a head of a society or a traditional ruler, but today we see that.
I mean, this is just the world that we're dealing with here in Nigeria. It's where people, how people say Nigeria is a place where you can just wake up and be anybody. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to follow the rules. The rules don't apply to everybody. The rules only apply to some people. And people who have criminal records, people who have been disbarred in America are sitting in our National Assembly, have political appointments. And so these are just the things that we see in Nigeria that has become the norm and shouldn't really become the norm. And you have former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who will always speak up, just putting this at the forefront to tell Nigerians, look, these are the things that are not normal that are going on in our society.
All right, let's quickly look at other papers. Daily Trust, why Niger is facing deep fuel crisis, according to refinery chief. Also, we can see Leadership newspaper. Can we pull that up? In Leadership, Lamido tackles El-Rufai over call to join SDP. And then at the top there we have ahead of 2027 Tinubu firm's grip on APC may retain Ganduje's NWC. And then Vanguard newspaper, a global trade war, Naira value depreciates amid forex outflows. Abductors of Ondo businessman wife daughter demand 30 million ransom. And then onto the international headlines, we have Citizen newspaper, Rasul thrown under the bus. That's a question. Harsh words about President Donald Trump's government led to America kicking out South African ambassador to the U.S., Ibrahim Rasul. But why is there no retaliation from President Ramaphosa? You know, this paper is asking. Experts say that Rasul was left to hang and dry. There's now a debate in South Africa over some saying that the ambassador cannot criticize his host in, you know, a sort of language, and then that Ramaphosa is being lukewarm. Quickly, Dr. Wogiaren, what do you think about this tussle between South Africa and the United States?
I think the world communities and the global communities agree that the second coming of Donald Trump was going to throw the entire world, especially Africa, into a very serious crisis. And we begin to see that is manifesting. You know, I think today, Donald Trump is almost turning to become the worst dictator around the world. Even with several court order restraining him from doing certain things, he's ignoring those court orders. So I think gradually, US is becoming not a shining example of democracy that the whole world should copy. So, like I said, Donald Trump is becoming a die-hard dictator. Right. And it's unfolding, and we're going to see some of these things in the weeks to come or months to come.
Well, Trump may not agree with you.
Exactly, and don't be thrown under the bus, please.
Exactly. Well, for our information, Ambassador Rasul did say that Trump's policies are based on white supremacy instincts, and you know, the Americans or Trump presidency didn't like that at all. You know, okay, onto a Daily Mail.
Dr. Constance, there is something about diplomacy. You know, the expression diplomacy is just what it is. Just be very careful what you say when dealing with a country, especially where you're representing your own nation.
But Donald Trump is not careful with what he says. They have a combative style administration, and so I think Rasul was just giving them what they dish out.
Donald Trump is not a diplomat, remember.
And you know, when it comes to you know, Western ambassadors in Africa, they actually engage in those kind of wars, and they also actually they put themselves into the political situation in our countries.
You know, who holds the yam also holds the knife. That's the situation we find ourselves in when it comes to that.
I think we run out of time. We couldn't even see the other papers, but I'll read the headlines. Okay. Daily Mail. Death of the work ethic, with labor at war over benefit costs. 1 in 4 young people consider quitting workforce entirely. And the Times, we still have the benefit cuts in that. Labor war of words over disability benefits. I'm afraid that's all we can take on the paper review today. Dr. Yobose Uwogiaran, thank you so much for giving us your time this morning.
And maybe we can save this Daily Mail story for tomorrow, because I think it's quite interesting. So maybe we can bring it back, Dr.
And it's an unfolding story.
Exactly. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us and leading the newspaper review here on Daybreak. And that's all we have for you here. It's goodbye from me, Nkechi Nana.
Please do keep it here on Arise News. Goodbye from me, Charles Eruka. The morning show is next.